In this segment, we're going to talk about bone histology. Osseous tissue is a supporting connective tissue. Like other connective tissues, osseous tissue contains specialized cells and a matrix consisting of extracellular protein fibers and a ground substance. The matrix of bone is solid and sturdy due to the deposition of calcium salts around the protein fibers. The matrix is very dense and contains deposits of calcium salts. The matrix contains bone cells or osteocytes, and these osteocytes are in pockets of matrix called lacunae. There are narrow passageways called canaliculi, and these canaliculi form a branching network from the lacunae, where the osteocytes are, to nearby blood vessels, so the osteocytes can exchange nutrients, waste products, and gases. Except at joints, a periosteum covers the outer surfaces of bones. Now we're going to take a closer look at the organization of the matrix and the cells of the bone. First of all, the matrix. The matrix of the bone is made up of calcium phosphate, and this accounts for almost 2/3 of the bone weight. Another third of the bone is made up of collagen. Collagen helps the bones to be flexible. And then finally we have cells, and the cells account for about 2% of the mass of a typical bone. Let's look at the cells. The osteocyte is a mature bone cell that maintains the bone matrix. This cell is non-dividing. It occupies a lacuna or a pocket that's sandwiched between layers of matrix. The layers are called lamellae. Here we can see the canaliculi that are the narrow passageways that penetrate the lamellae, connecting each lacuna to each other and also to blood vessels. The osteocytes participate in the repair of damaged bone. Osteocytes secrete chemicals that dissolve the adjacent matrix, and the minerals released enter into the circulation. Osteocytes then rebuild the matrix. The turnover rate varies from bone to bone, and we'll look at that process a little later. The turnover rate varies from bone to bone. Osteocytes also participate in the repair of damaged bone. If released from their lacunae by a fracture, osteocytes can convert to a less specialized type of cell, like the osteoblast or the osteoprogenitor cell, and help to rebuild bone. The osteoblast is a cell that produces new bone matrix in a process called ossification. Before calcium salts are deposited, the osteoblast will lay down an organic matrix that's called an osteoid. Osteoblasts then help to trigger the depositing of calcium salts in this organic matrix. This helps to convert the osteoid to bone. The first cell that we'll talk about is the osteocyte. The osteocyte is a mature, non-dividing bone cell. It occupies lacunae, which is a pocket found in between the layers of matrix. The matrix is arranged in layers, and the osteocytes will be in these little pockets in between the layers of bone. There are also these narrow passageways in between the lacunae that help to connect one lacunae to another, helping these osteocytes communicate with each other. And these canaliculi also are narrow passageways into where blood vessels are, and these blood vessels help to bring and exchange nutrients and waste products and gases with the cells. Osteocytes help to maintain the protein and mineral content of the matrix, and they also participate in the repair of damaged bone. The osteoblast is another type of bone cell. This is a precursor cell. It will produce new bone matrix. It begins by producing a non-calcified bone matrix that's called osteoid, and then the osteoblasts help to attract calcium to the area that will help to calcify the osteoid and make new bone. The osteoblast, once it has built bone up all around it, becomes an osteocyte as soon as the bone content completely surrounds it in a lacunae. The osteoprogenitor cell is a mesenchymal cell or a stem cell in bone that divides to produce daughter cells that will differentiate into osteoblasts. There are fewer of these cells. They are important in the repair of a fracture. The osteoclast is a bone cell that's a very giant cell. We can see that here. That has many nuclei, so it's multinucleated. There can be 50 or more nuclei found in an osteoclast. The osteoclasts dissolve the matrix of bone. The acids and enzymes secreted by the osteoclast dissolve the matrix and release the stored minerals like calcium into the blood. This process is called osteolysis. Let's look to see how the two types of bone, compact bone and spongy bone, are arranged. First we'll talk about compact bone. The composition of the matrix in both compact bone and spongy bone are the same, but the difference is in the arrangement of the osteocytes, the lamellae, and the canaliculi. If we look at compact bone, we can see that it is arranged in an osteon. An osteon is the basic functional unit of a mature compact bone. In an osteon, there is a central canal, and in the central canal, which is also called a haversian canal, contains blood vessels, an artery and a vein. Surrounding that central canal are concentric lamellae arranged around that central canal. There are perforating canals, which are passageways for linking the blood vessels from the central canal to the periosteum. Periosteum is a connective tissue surrounding the outside of the compact bone. So again, what you're seeing here are concentric circles of lamellae surrounding a central canal. And here you can see perforating canals that are connecting the central canal with blood vessels in the periosteum. We also see in between the concentric layers of lamellae that the osteocytes are contained within lacunae in between those layers. Spongy bone is arranged differently. It does have the same characteristics. It has the matrix and it has the cells, but it's arranged in what's called trabeculae. These are more struts of bone that are not arranged in the concentric circles. This is a picture taking a look at the osteon. We can see the concentric layers of matrix. We can see the central canal. Here we see collagen fibers that are in the matrix of the bone. The collagen fibers help to give the bone flexibility. This is so the bones will bend before they break. Here we see a close-up of spongy bone. We note that spongy bone is in the epiphyses of the bone, and we can also see that it's lining the interior of the shaft of the bone. Here you can see how the matrix is aligned in struts rather than in osteons. The periosteum is another important characteristic of bone. The periosteum is a two-layered covering that covers the compact bone with both a fibrous outer layer and a cellular inner layer. Here we can see that the periosteum is being pulled away from the bone, therefore showing that it is not a part of the bone but rather a tissue that surrounds the bone. The inner cellular layer has cells that will help to produce more bone. The outer fibrous layer is the layer that gives the periosteum its strength. Also here in the fibrous layer of the periosteum, this is where muscle tendons will attach to the bone. The endosteum contains an incomplete layer of cells. We see that there are osteoclasts in this layer. There are also cells of the endosteum, and we see a few osteoprogenitor cells, and there are also osteoblast cells. So in this layer we see osteoclasts dissolving matrix, the osteoblasts laying the osteoid down to replace that bone, and once that bone is completely surrounded by matrix, it then becomes an osteocyte. The endosteum is a layer of cells that helps to complete the lining of the medullary cavity.